and welcome to this first look exploring session, our second session looking at the Fair Maid of Bristow, or Bristol, which we've got a little over halfway through. It's not a long play by any stretch of the imagination. We're about to start Act 4, Scene 2. I do not know whether any of these scene or act divisions are original. I'm fairly certain they're all made up later on after the fact by someone who just went, this needs a 4-act structure. Yeah, not sure the text is really justifying that level of effort because this play does not hang around. It is doing just all the plot points. Here's the stuff, other stuff, yeah, and we've got people just being randomly evil now. A couple of moments that are, shall we say, somewhat problematic have popped their Larry heads up at us in the text so far. So just be warned that it may happen again. It may happen again. It may get worse. I don't know. I don't know how the play ends. I have no idea. It's sort of, in theory, turning into a history play now, because at some point the king's going to turn up. So, yeah, let's see if this connects in any way with real history, or whether it's just history. To find out how this play is going to end, ridiculously doubled as per usual. There may be some clashes. People may have to do silly voices to make sure that they are differentiated from when they are talking to themselves. Reading a constable, the king, King Richard, and a keeper is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm a constable, and I'm the king's keeper.
Reading Florence and Godfrey today is...
Me.
Yes. Me, all the way over from somewhere. Reading Sentloe and Eustace is...
Me, right here.
In the event that elements of this is used for in a primarily audio medium, people saying their names would be lovely.
Liza Graham, doer of many theatrical things, London.
It's going to be that kind of evening, I can tell. Reading Harbert and Anabell is...
Steve Longstaffe, retired academic, northwest of England.
Reading Vallenger, Ellen and Messenger is...
Bonsoir, c'est moi, Emily C.S. Nadal, dans New York City.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions, and I'll also jump in occasionally to be Challener, who is the nice one, as opposed to Vallenger, who is the one who has decided to be evil. Did I get it the right way around? I've got a bit confused who's the twirly moustache villain and who is not. So yes. Let's dive into Act 4, Scene 2, and in fact, let's dive into moustache twirly territory as enter Vallenger.
What spiteful fortune, Vallenger, is this? This villain doctor hath betrayed my trust, and to my father all my plots revealed, who flat denies me succor or relief. I dare not be seen within the city, for then there is no way but straight to prison. I'll call to Mistress Florence, I know that she is kind. To her I'll show my grief and my sick mind. Ho! Mistress Florence.
Enter Florence.
Who's there, sweet Vallenger, is't thee?
Mm-hmm.
Why dost thou look so sad? How fares my dear?
If faith, never worse, but all my hopes in thee.
What is it, sweet, I will not do for thee?
My father and my wife knows all my drift, and all enraged threatens to be revenged, and will not let me have no maintenance, but swears to plague me for my wickedness.
Is the wind in that door? What would you have me do?
To let me live with thee a little space, until I have obtained my father's grace. Then when I have a sweet mistress shall be thine.
And what shall I do, beg the while? No, Vallenger, you're deceived in me. Think you that I'll be privy to your plots to bring myself in danger of the law? Go to your wife and cherish her at home. I do not like these wanton humors,
I hope, sweet Florence, that you do but jest.
Beshroud my heart, then. Do not take it so. Pray leave my house, lest your father come.
Give me house room, Florence, but tonight.
Not an hour shall I have my reputation touched for thee if you linger here. I'll send for the officers to discharge myself.
Is it even thus? Well, what remedy? Lie in the fields, wretch! There despair and die.
And exit Vallenger.
God that Sentloe be not murdered now. Then all my hopes are lost.
Enter Blunt, i.e. Harbert in disguise.
How now, Blunt? What news?
Sentloe has drunk his last. The deed is done.
Then are we undone, Blunt?
Why, wherefore?
The poor dejected Vallenger was here, as dry as dust, not left a single doit. His father vows to follow law of him. Well, would that Sentloe were alive again.
'Tis done. Therefore now there is no help.
Yes, Blunt, there's help, but mark a woman's wit. Vallenger is but new gone out of doors. Go follow him, and mark where he lies down. And if thou seest he is inclined to sleep, lay Sentloe's murdered body hard by him. Pluck out his sword, and all be bloody, and then cry murder as if he did the deed. About it, Blunt, do not the same neglect, and then we two are free from all suspect.
Fear not. This shall be done effectually.
Then farewell, come to me when it 'tis done. Meanwhile, I'll home and stir not out of door.
And exit Florence.
The devil take thee for a filthy whore. Thou art apt enough in murder and in lust, but like a stone in anything is honest. Well, ere tomorrow, many things will change. That dead men should revive, it would seem strange. Now, after Vallenger, I mean to go to see in what place he doth himself bestow.
And exit. I mean, we're going full panto villainy here. I have to say, I did do a little interior cheer when Vallenger is sort of sent packing. There, just going, go away, get out, and yeah. And then Florence is. I mean, it's a good plan. Good plan. I can't see anything wrong with that plan. I mean, you don't know, obviously, that the Herbert's lying, but yeah, good plan. Pluck out his sword, be bloody it, cry murder, blame him for it. Yeah. I also just love the fact that he goes, "Oh, I hope Sentloe's not been murdered." Enter Blunt. Has he been murdered? Yes. Bugger. Shit. Yeah. Thoughts in the room about this terribly complex interior driven psychological play that we're working with here. Emily.
Yeah, same thing. I'm really satisfied that Vallenger might be getting his comeuppance. And also unsurprised that my girl Florence there is just looking out for number one. No matter what's happening, she's like, I'm going to be fine. What's the deal? Okay. This is the, thank you next is very much what she's doing there. Yes, but I was pleasantly surprised that Vallenger looks like he may not come out on top, which up till now I was pretty sure this was going to be a Vallenger wins type show.
Well, I think he really shut the door on himself when he went full evil. When he started planning multiple murders and things, he's yeah.
So multiple murders is where we draw the line. One murder, fine. Multiple,
yeah, yeah. You've got to draw a line somewhere. I mean, it's not unknown for early modern people to be committing the odd manslaughter and getting away with it. And that's just in day-to-day life, not even in drama. Other thoughts? Liza.
Well, I think it's interesting that Herbert's little soliloquy moves into rhymed verse, and in fact, he completes a couplet from Florence's last line. She says, "Meanwhile, I'll home and stir not out of door." And she exits, and Harbert says, "The devil take thee for a filthy whore." And then the rest of his very short speech is in rhymed couplets. So that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's this the really sort of awkward thing about Herbert is just he's really sort of. I mean, we find out that Florence is, just on the make and is a bad influence for his friend. But, he just seems to use every single opportunity to, call her a filthy whore at every single moment. And it's very hard to root for Harbert just because of, and it's also quite difficult to get rid of that rhyme because of what it's doing there. So it's hard to root for him because I kind of feel that we need to on some level. Other thoughts, Eric?
I was just wondering who is this by again? Because all this disguise and sort of 2D characters seem a bit mundane. I mentioned it by accident. I mean, in the chat for completely different reasons, but it does seem a bit like Jonah Cumber.
We have no idea who it is. And that's he was alive, so maybe he did. It doesn't necessarily feel like it is, but who knows what processes this script underwent during its life to strip back or add an autorial voice to it. But yeah, there is a bit of a sense of that. I'd go with that. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we dive into the next gobbit of action? As I think I will now call the scenes. Act 4, Scene 3. Enter Sentloe, not dead, just in case you were confused, but very drowsy.
Oh, I wonder that I am so dull and heavy. My feet doth stumble as I go along. Mine eyes hangs down as if I had not slept this 20 days. Pray God it be for good. Still more and more, well, I must needs lie down and make my pillow of the grass and ground.
He lies down and falls asleep. Enter Vallenger.
How irksome is the day unto my eyes! My cheeks do blush for to behold the skies. Methinks the heavens doth frown upon my sin, and to repentance bids my heart begin. The earth do burn my feet with scorching fire, because that all as hot was my desire. So heaven and earth my practice doth confound, yet must I be beholding to the ground. My grief is here, sleep doth follow sorrow. Here rest thy wretched carcass till tomorrow.
Here he lies down to sleep. Enter Harbert, still disguised as Blunt.
This way he went, and here he is laid to sleep, and Sentloe by him. This is excellent. Now, Herbert, since thou hast done him all this good, for once be a little lavish of thy blood.
Here he stabs his arm and bloodies Sentloe's face, and plucks out Vallenger's sword and bloodies it, and lays it by him.
The potion I gave Sentloe to drink doth make him seem to all as he were dead, and yet his time is not come to wake. Now I will raise the watch. Murder! Murder!
Exit Herbert. Vallenger starts up.
What noise is that affrights mine ears? With murder? I laid me down to sleep. What's here? My sword drawn out and bloody? And here's a gentleman new murdered? Some villain surely that hath done this deed hath laid this murdered body here by me, so that by means himself might be thought free. If it be so, when then most happy I that hates to live, and hath such means to die.
And before Vallenger can reiterate the plot any further, enter the constable and officers.
See, here's the murdered body, and here's the murderer. I charge you, in the king's name, deliver up your weapons and go with us.
With all my heart. See, there my weapons are, and care me wheresoe'er you please.
And exit some officers, presumably with Vallenger.
Go to prison with him presently. The rest bring in this murdered body.
Enter stage managers to remove body, presumably. Enter Blunt in his own shape, i.e. Herbert.
God save you, sir. I hear it rumoured a gentleman is slain.
Sir, a proper man, and here he lies.
Oh, noble Sentloe, dost lie so low? Break heart asunder that thy friend is slain.
Sir, do you know the gentleman?
Yes, sir. He was my loving friend, and we at Oxford fellow pupils were. Then, good sir, let me in kindness pray that as I always loved him in his life, so may have his body at his death, that I may give him Christian burial.
With all my heart, we'll leave him here with you, sir, and I'm sorry for your heaviness.
Exit Constable.
Oh, this goes well once. I'll be blunt again, for now the time draws on of his awake.
Exit Harbert. Actually, no supernumeraries came to carry the body off, because at this moment Sentloe rises.
I never slept more soundly in my life. But stay, how comes my hands so bloody? So is my face. Methinks, stay, here's my man.
Enter Blunt, amazed.
Why, how now, Blunt? Why starest thou so upon me?
Are you alive, sir?
Didst thou set anybody to kill me?
No, not I, sir, but wicked Florence did. Hadst been slain had it not been for me. Sentloe, behold thou, Harbert and thy friend, that thus waited on thee like thy man to save thee from 1,000 miseries.
I am amazed, and know not what to say. Oh, my dear Harbert, oh, my loving friend.
Leave off embracements till some other time. The king is come to Bristow, newly landed. Come, as we go along, I'll tell thee all. Things wonderful that thou dreamst not of.
And they exit. Ta-da! It's me! Harbert sort of exits to come straight back on again. I mean, basically he's just putting his hoodie on, isn't he? And then... This is a quick change disguise here. I love the constable's line. Do you know the gentleman? After someone who's just standing there going, oh, this poor...
Imagine him standing there with a notebook. Do you know this gentleman, sir?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot to take in here. So Sentloe has been given a draft which will make him look dead for a very specific period of time, for as long as the plot requires. Literally, I almost want an egg timer just at the side of the stage, just to go ding, to wake him up. And then Harbert sort of half does what he was told to do by Florence with the whole blood thing. Stabs his arm. Blood everywhere. And then Vallenger wakes up and basically, figures out the plot really quickly. He's been in this kind of play before. Vallenger's hit on some hard times, having to sleep rough. Bit of a shift in character emphasis here. Some stuff going down. So, thoughts from the room. This is a roller coaster, isn't it? I mean, Emily.
Okay. I feel like I'm reading the spit draft version, the vaguely fleshed out version of the writer's room for an entire series. And all we've done is taken the Post-it notes and turned them into no more than 4-line exchange scenes. And then we're on to the next Post-it note, on to the next Post-it note, on to the next Post-it note. Because Vallenger left going, what, in a front? And I expected the next thing is, okay, now we're going to have him go to his father and, learn the error of his ways, and then go to his wife and learn the error of his ways. And instead, he just wanders in immediately going, oh, I guess now I'm afraid of damnation. After all these things, I'm afraid of damnation, better take a nap. Which I guess is as good a response to that as any. But then I guess he's enough of a bastard that he realizes that in fact this is the plot that's happening. Someone is definitely trying to frame me because this is what I would do. But sure, take me away. I mean, just remarkable. And then Harbert, I can't say it without the R. Whatever, good old Harfellow playing Blunt. Wow, as you were saying, I thought we were meant to cheer for him, but he's doing worse things than Vallenger now, where he's blaming Florence and he's doing this and all in a trick. And it makes me wonder, in a modern production, would you perhaps play that Harbert wanted to have a different relationship with Sentloe, perhaps? That comes with its own problems, if he is the only person on the stage who wants to have a relationship with Sentloe, and then is doing this sort of stuff. But I feel at this point, by the end, I'm actually having difficulty keeping up because they're doing the thing of, they believe that surprise is the same thing as plot, I think. And so I'm curious to see whether we end up with something that feels a little bit like the end of Game of Thrones, where they're just after the next surprise, or whether there's some sort of satisfying conclusion the way that you expect with a melodrama.
I just think we need to build a massive wall on the back with light-up displays, so that literally, as it's going along, something just goes, ding, sudden character change, ding, now you're evil, ding, and just make the whole thing almost like because we were talking about people from the audience shouting out suggestions last time, that actually we just make it sort of part of it, that none of this whole thing is sort of weirdly artificial, and that sort of dances around, suddenly be an arsehole. It dances around some of the problems that some of the implicit problems in the text that are less fun, and allows us to have fun with the other stuff. Stephen, I think, are you thinking of, or are you just ruminating?
As you were talking, it reminded me there's a play by David Ives, who's this kind of Python follower, basically. But it is basically that. It's a two-hander, and there's a bell, and people try out a line, and then the person with the bell goes ding, and they have to kind of completely change direction. And it's really, really funny. But it is kind of like that. You could imagine a kind of quizmaster or somebody on the side there just going, "I'm bored with this," bing, and off we go. Yeah, and perhaps part of the appeal of it is just that kind of game-like or playful quality, because we all seem to be enjoying it, don't we?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's not enjoying it. I mean, we're not uncritical of where some of the text is going, but we're still sort of going, hey, how far can we take this? I think Rachael and Eric waved, so I don't know. Rachel's not sure. Eric.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's very much mwah, ha, ha, and then suddenly, I don't know, the character cackling evilly gets stabbed or something, and it's like, and then the character behind them steps up to go mwah, ha, ha, who laughs best laughs the last laugh or something, and yeah, it's kind of, I am the big bad. No, I am the big bad, and it's kind of the evil villains fighting it off kind of thing. I don't know, maybe.
I almost feel also you need someone on synths in the corner just doing soundtrack to all of this, so that that just to say what tone am I playing this scene? Emily.
Just with that, could you imagine the fun then as an actor is if every time you come on with the intention of whatever your last scene was, the orchestra starts playing different music and you stop sort of looking at the audience like, I'm readjusting, so the fun of watching the actors get shifted around, like you were saying with this sort of ding above, they walk on and they see whether they've got, good guy, bad guy on the board for them at the moment. I like that idea.
Okay, let us dive into Act 5. That was very satisfying to say. Act 5, Scene 1. We sort of have an unhelpful stage direction from the text, and then we can infer quite a lot of others. So we have the entrance of King Richard, Leicester, and Richmond. Only one bit of data there is actually useful as far as this reading is concerned, because I think only King Richard actually says anything. I don't think Leicester or Richard say a damn thing, unless Godfrey and Eustace have just been given some additional lands and titles that I wasn't aware. But we have a load of other people on stage as well. We've got Godfrey, we've got Eustace, we have Anabell, we have people. There are people. So King Richard has arrived. Let's see where this goes.
All hail, thou blessed bosom of my peace. Richard finds instance of his home return. Bristow, thou happy road where first I land, doth welcome me now from the Holy Land. Send word to London of our safe arrival while in Bristow here repose us.
Fame with her brazen trump hath borne this tiding hither.
And Bristow with their citizens express their gladness by their triumph at your safety.
And we with you will put these triumphs on, but for this unlucky accident which makes old Eustace and Umfraville sad, which grieves me for the noble gentleman.
By blessed St. Paul, my liege, I cannot brook it to see my child, my heir, my Anabell. This here, what a wretch was this! Now by Saint Charity, if I were judge, a halter were the least should hamper him.
Though nature wrestles with my stayed reason and wills me plead for mercy for my son, yet justice with impartial wings directs my thoughts from pity and my words for right. My liege, to make an entrance to your fame, regard Umfraville's wrong, punish my son. I cannot lose him better than by law, nor is he lost that doth example give of sweet amends to such as lewdly live.
Virtue commends thy course and patience his. In both I pity what you both desire. If justice could be glossed with pity's wings, call forth the prisoner. Let us crown the time with justice for those honorable men.
Mercy, Richard. Mercy in a king is like the peerless diamond set in gold. He out of envy and fury speaks. I, out of love and passion, plead for him.
What pleasing advocate hath raised to please the prisoner's cause, himself not there?
One that doth bear the greatest grief of all, the hapless wife of woeful Vallenger.
Why, thou art wronged, therefore shouldest claim revenge for thee and justice for thy husband.
Revenge for me, my lord? Nay, that cannot be, unless a strange division may be had, for I that am as nearly knit to Vallenger as body to the soul, cannot suppose an injury, but think his loss to be my misery and chiefest cross.
Hath he not sought thy blood, thou foolish girl?
He sought no more than I can freely give, and sacrificed to death, so he may live.
Did he not keep a harlot to despite thee?
And if he mend that fault, he soon may right me.
He gave thy ornaments to deck his troll.
And my consent did ratify his guilt.
Well, he hates thee.
To try my patience. All that he did or gave or did contrive concerneth me. His act was my allowance. Now, since myself accuse not, but excuse, since she that was supposed to be wronged doth right that wrong, be just and set him free. For I protest I know no injury.
She knows no injury, my lord, she lies.
Sir Godfrey, since your daughter doth remit his fault, methinks you should forgive him.
Forgive him? No, not I, the wretch shall never boast. That he hath braved old Godfrey in a just and honest cause, he touch him I, and touch him to the quick. No less than for his neck first will I touch him. Doctor, stand forth, and to my prince and peers, say what thou knowest of Sentloe's bloody death.
Then this I vow before your majesty, that Vallenger corrupted me by gold to poison Anabell and Sentloe too.
Intents are nothing till they come to acts.
And mistress is not Sentloe dead in act?
Sentloe is dead. My master's bloody death should quicken justice in your majesty.
Thou shalt have justice to thy own content.
Oh, how I grieve to see her brinish tears water the crimson roses of her cheeks.
Had not my wit prevented this before, nor you nor she had never sorrowed more.
Yon comes my son. What said I? No, my shame, let his blood, my liege, redeem the same.
Oh, I much prefer the typo there. She sidestepped beautifully. We're just going to pause there before Vallenger enters, and Anabell continues to be a delight. Oh dear. Yeah. But yeah, the king is here as final arbiter, justice, judge. I don't know whether he popped back from the Holy Land to arrive at Bristol. Bristow. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know which port he used. He wasn't in England long, so it's always one of those things. So, am I really trying to find some history in this play? Am I really doing that?
Well, it's sort of it's as you say, it's sort of a Robin Hood thing that Richard was away, and his return was his return was a return of the world to rights for the 2 seconds that he lived when he was back.
Well, and clearly Vallenger or Harbert are stand-ins for King John and Sir Guy of Gisborne getting their just desserts after ruining the world.
Yeah, we're none of us are stretching here. None of
Does
us.
that make Herbert Robin Hood?
No, it makes Challenger Robin Hood, right? Because he came in disguise in order to get his love, made Marion, who is clearly Anabell. Right? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. And actually that disproves Eric's theory about it being Monday, because Monday would so have put footnotes in to make sure this was historically accurate, and there's none of that there at all. Sadly. Eric.
Well, also he would have had them in like Kendall Green or something because he's a fanboy of Robin Hood. Like he even put it in his Lord Mayor's show, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, he had some costumes and people lined up for that gig. Monday would definitely get the factual stuff right. He knew his stories. Anyway, Anabell continues to be very similar to last time. It just doesn't end. Actually, it's just like everybody's. I just like when Ellen says he hates you.
I gave him my permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rachael in the chat is just saying this is ridiculously abusive, isn't it? It's kind of she's been gaslit to Mars and back, hasn't she?
Yeah. Emily.
Actually, trying to get Rachael back on mic here. Yesterday, weren't you saying, Rachael, that maybe Anabell is meant to be over the top, or we're meant to see how ridiculous this sort of, as Stephen put it, I will now forever think of it as the woman who's like, no, take my glass eye, take my this, take my that as well. So for me, it was reading as comical rather than serious.
Rachael.
I mean, yesterday with the extremeness that she was talking about with this situation, it was almost like she was a Muppet Karen, like with the thing, mostly because of what she said at the end. But I put in the chat that it's kind of like talking to somebody who's in an abusive relationship and trying to convince them of a unhealthy dynamic that they're in. And I think there is that kind of over the topness about that, but I think it is, a joke at the same time. It's a comedy, not a jab at people who've been in abusive relationships, but I don't know, just that he's such trying to convince somebody that somebody else is just an utter piece of crap conversation.
Yeah, I mean, if we veer in any direction towards the real, we're really screwed with this play. But if basically the Anabell is this sort of walking trope that we can mock, then that sort of works. But Stephen, are you agree? Is that?
It works in the context of the play, I think. I mean, you have impossibly virtuous females all over the place in early plays, don't you? But the rest of the play is so kind of farcical. So I think not just what she says. I think it's everything that surrounds her is so kind of crazy.
Emily.
Well, I think what tips it into farce for me is in fact that Ellen line, "Well, he hates thee." It's so short. It's so it leaves no room at all. And to me, it's just so funny. The way the verse is set up is funny. He did this. Oh, well, this. He did, one line. So it doesn't leave room, or it doesn't seem to invite to me taking it seriously or in a, pathos sort of way. In some ways, because no one stops and gives a good, justifiable, psychological or interior excuse. So to me, this reads as inviting mirth.
Rachael.
Yeah, so what Emily just said about that one line that, "Well, he hates thee," I think it works so well as a farcical line because it's so realistic, and I don't want to say like conversational, but it almost is conversational, and it's one of those mic drop things that there's not any response to in real life or in this, and that is, I think it's because there's so many phrases like that in this play where it's like where all of a sudden it has to stop and then it goes over the top on itself, that's what keeps some of these serious topics, I guess, with like abusive relationships, which we've had like in other plays that are meant to be comedies, but over the time, like, it's not really still landing. I think I can't remember the name of it, but Liza was there. I can't remember the name of it, but we were just like, at the end, we were like, you were there, Rob. I think it was some second look thing, but for this one, I think it's still, there's something about it that still works despite some of these problematic things. I mean, we still got more to go, but there's still stuff that works, I think, despite all this stuff that I might not tolerate in another genre of play.
Eric.
I was going to say that it's interesting how all this is happening in front of the king. It feels like, it's a very domestic sort of like argument, and then suddenly they escalate into like sort of, he hates you, but he's just being, cruel, so I can whatever. And yeah, it just feels very weird to do it in front of the king.
Okay, well, the scene isn't over. We've got more stuff to come. For here, enter Vallenger and officers.
Young Vallenger, thou art here accused for Anabell and murdering Sentloe that is dead. Speak, art thou guilty, aye or no?
Guilty in both, my lord, and here for both, ready to pay the penalty of my life. Though in my soul and conscience I am clear of Sentloe's death, yet welcome, happy lot, that so shall rid my life of that foul spot.
Alas, poor soul, how grief and his disgrace does make him desperate. Behold his face. From thence speaks truth as from an oracle, that he is innocent, though his words accuse him.
Well, Vallenger, attend thy sentence.
Pronounce not sentence yet, right royal king.
What lawful stay canst thou impart to us?
A stay to straighten justice and the truth. My conscience charged with this heinous crime makes me confess, though to my heart's true grief, that by the enticements of lewd Florence and her guilts, I should have murdered Sentloe, my dear master. I therefore think that through her wickedness, she is the cause of all these villainies.
Post officers and fetch her to our presence.
A weak delay to hinder my strong faith.
I ever thought that harlot would be won. See how that bold face jeets like a bride.
Enter Florence.
Health to the king, good fortune to the peers.
A bolder queen there lived not this many years.
My piercing judgment through the brittle glass of that frail beauty doth discern her looseness. Lady, stand forth.
I entertain that name, most royal king, and boldly come here to clear myself of anything that shall be laid against me.
You are here accused as accessory unto Sentloe's death. Speak. Are you guilty, aye or no?
Doth this disgraced son of that proud man charge me with these surmises before the king?
Thou hast not murdered him, but my renown, his death. This hand my death of fame doth wound.
Thus lust makes young men's misery her law.
Who then dares touch my reputation?
Look there on thy accuser, that is he.
This Cornish lump of flesh? This shag-haired slave?
Apply thy speech, proud woman, to the place. Speak reverently in presence of the king.
Lady, we stand not upon words, but on the proof and estimate of right. Stand forth and freely speak the truth.
The wretch, my lord, that never did offend, fears not to die. I charge thee, Florence, of my master's death. Moreover, I charge thee that with this purse of massy gold thou didst bribe me to murder Sentloe. Sentloe that is dead.
I bribe thee. With what falsehood dost thou urge me?
Let Vallenger be asked what purse this is. Look on it, ladies. Mark it, for you know it. The purse was mine.
This purse I gave to Florence.
Then with this purse we boldly may conclude that she did bribe Blunt to murder Sentloe.
Look on her face, my lord, her colour changeth.
Am I descried? Shall yonder Cornish slave, by blabbing tongue, bring me to infamy? No, though I assure my death, I'll further his. Your answer, Florence, what debate you there? My answer shall be resolute and true, worthy the valor of a woman's mind. To bad for thee, thou lump of infamy.
Nothing but badness is from bad derived.
Most mighty king, I freely do confess that cursed Blunt consented to murder Sentloe. That is the truth of all, live I or die.
Nude is her life, my lord, and loose her tongue.
Well, take them aside. In Florence, I observe her impudence. In Vallenger, despair. In Blunt, remorse. In these three last front, terror. Call them again. Attend your answer all. First, Vallenger, thou soughtest to poison Anabell thy wife, since by apparent proof Sentloe is slain. Our sentence is respective for thy good. A noble death, the loss of thy lewd head. Blunt and this honest Florence, both for committing and concealing murder, must on the gallows die. Apologies. This is our sentence.
No act is proved in me, right royal king.
Her words approve thy act her will.
My fault is in concealment, not attempt.
His fault is murder. Hang us all, my lord.
Harbert, for all your kindness to my son, I'll see you shortly caper in a cord.
See, then you hang us closely, then, my lord, to kiss in death as we have kissed in life.
Not thy shame, nor shame thou womanhood.
Alack, good God, how holy she is grown! She loves the flesh, yet dares not make it known.
I do embrace the law, as pleased to die. Father, forgive the follies of my youth. Umfrule, let me bear to heaven upon the wings of my unfeigned repentance, my sorrow here indented in my tears, and thou endued wonder of thy sex. Forgive the wrongs that I have done to thee, that I may go with peace unto my death.
Away with them. Tomorrow see execution be performed.
Oh, mercy, Richard, show some mercy. Will Vallenger in silence lose his son, and harder than the Penarian rocks never be pierced? Although the father will not, Richmond plead. And if that Richmond dare not, Leicester speak. Oh, see, the time fleets hence with swallows' wings. Time runs. O gracious king, be merciful.
Lady, I cannot break the limits of the law. A willful murder must be paid with death. Yet bring me a man that will willingly yield sufferance of death to save young Vallenger, and he shall live. Else hope no further grace. Attend our further pleasures at the court.
And exit the king, probably.
This is some comfort, happy Anabell. Now, show thy ready, and thy woman's wit.
How shall he live in? One will die for him. Well, Vallenger, if thou wilt have such a friend, thou art happy, but I mean to see the end. So, some stuff going on there. King just sort of throwing this last crumb over his shoulder, just going, yeah, okay, everybody's going to die, unless someone's willing to do some swapsies. That's cool. That's cool. Just for plot reasons. Things. There's just so many. Anabell's. Stephen managed to just about get the line out, but he is innocent, though his words accuse him.
Sorry.
He's just confessed.
I suppose you could do it defiantly, couldn't you? He's innocent, though his words accuse him.
Yeah. Eric.
I think it's like the king is kind of like the king that we met today in humorous Days of Mirth, where you can kind of like he walks in and he's pissed off. he walks in and he gets a hangover or something along the way, because the king starts off perfectly like jovial almost, and then he's like, by the end, he's like, away with them. I'm bored. Someone has to die, or else someone get me a frappuccino or something.
Well, to be fair, the king's judgment is perfectly reasonable. These are all sort of terrible homicides, and clearly that's what the law at the time would have gone for. He is quite judgy. Before even any Florence enters, and he goes, my piercing judgment doth discern her looseness. And it's just like going, right, you haven't prejudged this case at all, have you? Not judging people by appearance. But Florence, I think Florence gets some wonderful dialogue here. She really gives as much as she takes here, all the way through. And that way, actually, the case sort of is pulled apart. I have a purse. It was mine. I gave it to him. I did it. And yeah, it's all. Though Harbert hasn't quite thought the whole thing through, has he? It's a sort of oh shit moment towards the end of going, oh no, hang on, no, I'm not supposed to be going to death. So yeah, thoughts from the room.
I kind of feel like, the guy has just arrived after. Okay, he's not the best king in history, we know this, but he's just arrived from the Holy Lands after so many years of fighting, and he ends up with this. It's just terrible.
And just at the point, the Florence, when Florence talks about to kiss in death as we have kissed in life, and just she suddenly goes yeah, that's interesting things. Rachael.
Yeah, to what you just said, how they basically look at her and then say, oh, what you're saying must be true because of how she looks, and then immediately she turns that around, not to get herself out of it, but to drag Harbert down with her, Harbert, or however you pronounce his name, by implying that they've had some relation to each other, some sexual relation to each other. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Emily.
I think just in looking, just because I'm playing Vallenger today, and trying to find some sort of through line. Oh, hush!
Sorry.
There shall be a through line. Damn it! But what actually does seem to work, and perhaps is just because I've been rewatching How I Met Your Mother, is this sort of Barney Stinson, ultimate con man. It's the clown thing that we were talking about yesterday. The cock. Whatever is true in this moment is the most true thing that has ever been. Which is also, the dark triad, narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths reality, which is literally whatever scene I'm in, this is what has been true all along. Which is then, of course, in some ways, so much fun to play, because now I walk into the scene and I mean, in the back of my brain while I was doing this it is a far, far better thing, And Vallenger 1000% believes everything that's happened in the play has been leading to this Tale of Two Cities ending for him. So just fascinating from the inside, but also not mentally healthy.
And we get this sudden late flourish from Anabell at the end here, where suddenly it's like, hang on, is something happening? That's a bit different, and I just love the way she turns to the non-speaking parts and goes, "Speak, Richmond, Leicester." So sorry, no, we're not paid. They'd have to increase the rate for the day. We're not allowed to say anything. Unless they are literally, yeah. It's so. But then happy Anabell. Now show thy ready and thy woman's wit, and I'm going, yes, please, please.
It's going to be the Rigoletto ending. It is.
Yeah, but we live in hope. We live in hope. I've no idea what Challener said at the end there. There's something banjaxed in the text, so I got very confused.
It was looking like, because that last line, it looked at first like, in fact, there was going to be a Tale of Two Cities thing. And since we have similar last names and we were friends in scene one, you might come in and swing in and go, no, kill me instead because I love Anabell and have learned from her. But then you say, I mean to see the end. So maybe not.
That's where I thought it might go, but yeah, I genuinely I think that's a textual thing to tidy up. Probably we'll get that clearer. Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for the end? Are we ready for the dramatic conclusion? Okay. Act 5, Scene 2. Enter Sentloe like a friar.
Thus, like a friar, I have disguised myself, to see my dear friend that hath saved my life, and that same strumpet that would have caused my death. A harlot's love is like a chimney smoke, quivering in the air between two blasts of wind, borne here and there by either of the same, and properly to none of both inclined. Hate and despair is painted in their eyes. Deceit and treason in their bosom lies. Their promises are made of brittle glass, ground like a fillip to the finest dust. Their thoughts like streaming rivers swiftly pass. Their words are oil, and yet they gather rust. True are they never found, but in untruth, constant in naught, but in inconstancy, devouring cankers of man's liberty. But stay, I am at the prison gate. Where are you, keeper? Let me speak with you.
Who goes there?
A friar come to confess your prisoners.
Stay. I'll bring them to you presently.
Enter Vallenger, Florence, and I don't know why they keep calling him Blunt. Harbert, yes, and the keeper. They come back again. So you had to wait. Nothing happened he's gone off. Time passes, no dialogue, nothing. Comes back on again.
Health to this place. Sir, let me speak with you. Do you not sorrow inward at the heart for your loose life you have so wanton spent?
Yes, from my heart, sir, and do think it long that this vile life of mine doth breathe so long.
Do not despair. Although your death be nigh, heaven look upon you with a gracious eye. Now, gentlewoman, let me speak with you.
Now, good fellow, what wouldst thou have with me?
To confess truly your offences past.
Well, shall I confess one thing truly to thee?
One thing and everything.
Why then I confess truly that before this time never confessed anything truly. But in brief, father, I'll tell thee, all that I cozened, I defrauded. Those I have slandered, I have defamed, whom I hated, I loved not, and this hath been the manner of my life.
Are you not sorry for that you have done?
No, by my troth, ne'er a whit at all.
I hope your mind will change before you die.
Perhaps you know so much. Trust me, not I.
God turn your heart. Friend, let me speak with you. The time draws near of execution. What, is it meet I go along with you?
Gentle Sentloe, perceptive thing.
And enter a messenger.
You must bring the prisoners away. The king and peers are already set. Say we make all the speed we may.
Come, noble hearts, let's fearless march away. A little hanging will dispatch us all.
Exit. To close the scene. It isn't the thrilling conclusion. I forgot there's another scene to come. So a little amuse-bouche before the thrilling conclusion, of which Florence. I really like Florence.
Florence! My girl Florence!
Yes!
She's not gonna repent. She's Popeye the Sailor. She's I am what I am.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a messenger. Emily bringing the messenger again, in true messenger style. But Sentloe, I mean, I corpsed myself there just at the beginning with enter Sentloe like a friar. Thus, like a friar, I have to disguise myself. That's not as funny, without the stage direction. I mean, basically, being a little unfair. But yeah, there's some. Yeah, a harlot's love is like a chimney smoke. That's one for an inspirational poster there, isn't it? Emily.
Yeah, it is so interesting, though, because all of a sudden you have this poem that Sentloe has ready, at the ready. I mean, and this is one of the most poetic things that we've had in this entire verse play, some of which probably should be in prose, but all of it, as we have it, is formatted in verse. And it makes me think that perhaps if this is a group project that, various writers are working on, this feels like someone wrote a poem about how much they don't like sex workers for whatever personal reasons they may have.
Someone got dumped.
Basically. And wrote this and said, well, my bit that I'm contributing is, and it will come to this final bit where I have spent a lot of time thinking about their words are oil, yet they gather rust. Where is it? Constant in naught, but in constancy. I mean, this is something that's been worked. And because you can tell the rest of the play is so not polished in its verse. Not bad, just not like it seems to be no one's gone through and done, a second, third, fourth, fifth, let's make this poetical, let's whatever, but this is suddenly polished. Hate and despair is painted in their eyes. Deceit and treason in their bosom lies. Whereas before as well, we've been having a lot of rhymes where you rhyme with the word you already said. Now in this last bit, we're hurrying up, we're writing at 3 a.m. to get the lines to the people who are rehearsing the next day, perhaps. So I find that very interesting.
So maybe that's why it's anonymous. Someone just gave away too much of their own life, and therefore, don't put my name on it, mate. Rachael, then Eric.
I was gonna say to what Emily said about the slut shaming and the sex worker, that they're doing here. It just reminds me of that like Roman poet. I forget what his name is, but he's like famous for his love poetry. I'm not exactly sure why, because he stole his friend's girlfriend who was an older woman, and he wrote all this love poetry about her. And then when she broke up with him, he just said that she was, he just started slut shaming her and saying like all this messed up stuff. And that's,
was it Catullus?
Yes, that guy.
Eric.
I'm starting to think that this is like some sort of fanfic or something, like for like a mixture of plays, but like sort of a weird like sort of mixture between like Robin Hood and Promos and Cassandra or something, because it's like that does feature a sort of jailer scene, and it's just, I know, it's so weird.
Yeah, this is the online original version of 50 Shades of Grey, isn't it? It's before it got to the publishers. So yeah. Right, Emily.
Just to say, it strikes me though, looking ahead, there's no more Frog and Douse.
That is
and
true.
And gosh, would I love to see them before the king. That might be really fun.
Yeah. Sad. Yeah, maybe Frog is the king. Maybe there's a doubling reason. Maybe.
Or, he got elevated, or he comes in disguise because you don't know. King's been off. Have you met the king?
Yeah. That's true. How many people would have actually met Richard within England?
Why didn't more people impersonate him?
Well, answers to that and other questions will not be forthcoming shortly. So, Act 5, Scene 3. Enter the king. Richmond, who cares? Leicester, yeah, whatever. Sir Eustace, Sir Godfrey, to the execution. Roll up, roll up.
Sir Godfrey and Sir Eustace Vallenger, your silver hairs should teach you patience.
My liege, God be my record, I do not repine. Alack, good knight, thou weeps in vain, but now there is no help.
Aye, my sovereign, justice on my son. He hath deserved death, and let him have it.
Sir Godfrey, hath your daughter yet found a man who will die for Vallenger, such as was our promise in regard of her? And since our word is past, we granted him.
No, my sovereign, I have hard a man urged by necessity to lead his friend, or to redeem his person with his own, but to find one will die for a friend, this age we live in doth not now afford.
Enter the officers with the prisoners.
Dispose young Vallenger the first to death. That done, send hence the others to their sentence doomed.
Ere I ascend the stage where I must act the latest period of this life of mine, first, let me do my duty to my prince. Next, unto you, too much by me offended. Now step by step. As I ascend this place, mount thou my soul into the throne of grace. If my offense might be forgiven on earth, I would ask pardon of my dread king, my parents, and my wife, that must forgive me. But my hateful life hath so be blotted and besmeared my fault, that when I come to ask the last forgivingness, they will not list my suit, nor yet regard it.
When enter at one door Anabell, disguised as a man, and at another Challener. So before that actually happens, let's just take in there. Anabell had a plan. Anabell's disguised like a man. I mean, I pause very very quickly here. Rachael.
Just let her do it. I'm done with her. Done with her. She's too. I'm done with this goody two shoes act.
Yeah. At least it's some sort of action from Anabell. So you know. Any other thoughts?
We could just hang everyone.
Yes.
I mean,
including the king, because Richard I was not a great guy.
yeah, but if we hang him, we get John. Sorry.
Yeah, I could live with John. Not necessarily, depending on which play we're talking about, John. There are different Johns available. Rachael, did you want me to get back to you?
Yeah, I agree. I would like to see everybody hanged in this play. I mean, Marston didn't do it. You know, we all wanted him to go there. He didn't do it. Didn't happen in Patient Griselle. I would just like
to in the
see...
chat. They all died in the chat.
Yes, they were dead to us, but I would like to have seen it for an audience. I would like them to have been dead for an audience back then.
Well, you don't know where it's going to go. It might all be fine. They might all die horribly. Eric, were you waving? Or did I imagine that?
Yeah, I was going to say that it is a bit sort of, again, it's like spiced sort of place, all the plays that are sort of, yes, now at my time of doom, I will sort of become more poetical and stuff. And then suddenly we get Anabell disguised as a man, and it's like, oh God, why? It's like that character in a horror movie that just kind of keeps going, and you're like, okay, the battery's dead. In your phone, the battery's dead in your torch. Why are you still in this haunted house? You know, like your friends have died. Why are you still going?
And Godfrey's there going, oh, you know, there's no one. We can't find anyone who will die for a friend. You know, nobody's watched Damon and Pythias for years, and nobody even understands the concept of that kind of manly love. Emily,
just very briefly, just amazing text here, because it's now step by step as I ascend this place. That is, like, for me, that is the only iambic I ever want to hear in my life. Because, I mean, mount thou my soul unto the throne of grace. Like, you can hear him walking up, and you can hear him reluctantly walking up. Like, who's going to stop me? Now, step. Anyone going to stop me? No. By step. I'm going up the stairs. No one. And then the word be blotted. I feel that we should really bring that, back into the world. I feel that we could use that in a lot of our political discourse. Be blotted is very evocative. So it's ridiculous. I am so increasingly enjoying myself by the end of it. Make the Post-it notes go faster, please. Just rip through. More plot. Don't stop.
I'm half expecting Vallenger to sort of burst out into song, I am going to the Lordy. Anyway, I think we should finish this beast, shouldn't we? So enter Vallenger's very slowly walked up some steps on the scaffold. Enter at one door Anabell, disguised like a man, and at another Challener.
Hey, here is one will die for Vallenger.
Nay, here is one will die for Vallenger.
Blind mine eyes, virtuous Challener, come to redeem his enemy from death.
Oh, Challener, by the deep wrongs that I have done to thee, oh, hide thy face. Thy looks are far more keen than is the axe must strike the fatal stroke. For thee, sweet youth, canst thou allege no reason why thou shouldst die for me? Be just, O king, no torment worse than fruitless lingering.
Sorry, such a build-up, yeah. Dispatch them, executioner, dispatch.
Stay, executioner. Do me justice, king. Thy word is passed that Vallenger shall live if anyone will lose his life for him. And that will I. I'll die for Vallenger.
Nay, here is one that for the love he bears to Anabell, but not to him, will die for Vallenger.
Well, my plea was entered first. My claim must stand.
Tell me but what thou art, rash young man, that dares enter into this place before me. Humanity doth teach thee thou ever shouldst give place unto thine elders in all assays. How rude then and unmannerly art thou to forget this common courtesy that parents teach their children every hour.
Sir, in humanity I must confess, so much as you allege, but not in death. The grave is as the public theatre. The room being taken up by them first enter, the second sort must sit but as they come. Besides, you say you die for Anabell. She ne'er deserved death. Therefore, give your plea to him that hath true title for the same.
That's not by thee, fond girl. Kneel, Eustace, kneel. Do not accept against her folly. Do not good my liege.
Why, you amaze me. What's the matter?
Why, my liege, this is my child, my Anabell. Came in this disguise to save his life that was the spoil of hers.
Now, afore God, girl, thou art much to blame. What is that other?
My lord, this is virtuous Challener, come to redeem his enemy from death.
A conflict of exceeding consequence, and much renounced that worthy gentleman, though let me tell you we are much displeased that Anabell should baffle thus our laws. We asked a man, and she a woman, to delude us. Therefore, we are content her husband have his life, but she shall lay her head upon the block, and she shall have no executioner but Vallenger himself. This is our sentence, and we will not change.
Pray God thou dost not, king, for I accept it. Come, Vallenger, that happy hand of thine shall save thy life and make an end of mine.
To strike the stroke, to murder Anabell? First let my soul sink to the pit of hell.
A man, the executioner of his wife, is so unhumane that a mortal eye would even be bloodshed to behold the same. Therefore, dread king, let me die for both, but to defend so scandalous an act. And as for thee, I hate thee, Vallenger, and could be well content with all my heart to be thy death's man, for thou hatest me. Besides, yet, Vallenger, consider this. Having a wife so fair as Anabell, beloved of me, thy foe, and so entirely that I do offer up my life. I've no idea where this is going, people. that I do offer up my life for hers. Should mercy pardon now at law doth threaten, thou must imagine that if we two live, I still should go about to murder thee, to enjoy thy wife, whom I so much do love. Therefore beg of the king that only I may die, to save her honour and thy infamy.
Hark you, wife, do you hear all this? Does not your heart melt at this amiss?
Melt, blunt, yes, and doth weep brinish tears to see what fames them and doth me confound. Here is a glass for such as lives by lust. See what 'tis to be honest, what 'tis to be just.
Why, this is well. Now, sovereign, hear me speak. If he that is supposed slain doth live, then friendly we may reconcile these jars.
Our law doeth light on none but guilty crimes, and that it punisheth as justice wills.
Why then, vouchsafe all in this princely presence, this gentleman and I brought all to pass. He, in a doctor's shape, hath saved the life of my friend Sentloe and of Anabell. I, in like sort, had saved Vallenger and Sentloe, which by me should have been slain. I saved him by an honest policy. And now, alive, present him to your sight, to make a pleasing end to these sad sights.
Here Sentloe putteth off his hood and kneels down.
Oh! This breathes new life into my hated heart. Sweet, beauteous, lets the razor of my smart forget in me what I have done amiss, and seal my pardon with one balmy kiss. My soul repents her lewd impiety.
Most dear solace, and my best content, my only dear esteemed Vallenger, not all the world being turned into pleasure could give my soul such sweet contented treasure. Thou art more dear, more pleasing to my mind than at the first, before thou provest unkind. 'Tis incident for young men to offend, and wives must stay their leisures to amend.
This kind contrition of young Vallenger more joys my heart than rest to travellers. Live long together, and may never fate this new joined league of marriage separate.
Like say I, to thee that now hath tried a friend's firm faith, that nothing can divide.
The which I will endeavour to deserve, and not so much as once in thought to swerve.
Since all things sorteth to this happiness and pining care is turned to joyful mirth, I will be partner in your merriment. Away with that same tragic monument for that same Florence there, because we see she sorrows something for her follies past. Let her be had among the convertines, and as her faults shall vanish or else stay, let her be used accordingly. Away with her. Glad parents and glad friends, in Bristow here a while ourselves will stay, and spend some sportful hours to crown your joy. After so many troubles and tired and annoyed, I got shit to do now.
And exit, everyone. Okay, there are many things just happening for no reason at all. But I think we're going to I'm just going to narrow into the thing that I think we're all thinking here. I think we're all really, really concerned about is why does everyone keep talking about Bristow as if it matters? Like it has some plot significance. We've gone through this entire play. They keep mentioning Bristow. It could be anywhere.
It's in the title.
I know it's in the title. It's in the play as well, but it doesn't mean a damn thing.
Maybe
Sorry.
it was, maybe, sorry.
No, it's all right. I'm done. Liza.
Well, Rachael had her hand up.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, is it supposed to be Bristol, but it's pronounced like Bristow, like in the way that we say Brazil, but it's like Brazil.
Well, yeah, we don't. I mean, today we'd sort of more. It should really be more sort of Bristol, actually. So I'm actually wondering about the pronunciation clue there.
I assume, yeah, Bristol or I mean, perhaps it was, or I think there's also places called Bristow with a W, but
I haven't even done a Google search, so I don't know.
Anyway, I think this play must have been written for when the court was passing through Bristol, and perhaps it was done to. Yes, when the court was passing through Bristol, and it must have been done to promote the town and be like, see, we can do drama with tropes as well as London.
Okay. My comedy interjection there aside. So Florence, for that same Florence there, because she sorrows something for her follies past. No, she so actually doesn't. She is the most unrepentant character of the lot. So let's just throw her in a convent. That'll be fine. That'll be fine. Rachael.
I like to think that the entire time she has been laughing and trying to cover it up, and she laughs so hard that she begins crying. And this is what makes them think that she's repentant.
Yeah, I go with that. I'm sure she'd have them doing bad things in that convent very soon. I'm sure she will be. She'll be Mother Superior within
She's going
weeks.
to become the abbess.
Yeah.
But I mean, we have this whole thing about a nunnery also meaning a brothel in popular slang. So,
Eric.
I was just wondering, like, okay, the play, because I wasn't here for the first half, as you know. I mean, yeah, pretty sure I wasn't. Like, okay, it's titled The Fair Maid of Bristow. Who exactly is the Fair Maid? Is it meant to be Florence, or is it meant to be Anabell, or neither?
I think it's probably Anabell. I'm gonna vote.
But it's but that's a really interesting ambiguity.
Yes,
so good to point out.
Yeah, we've got several problems with the title. That's yeah, because that's not really the general focus. There is the as to which one we're going for here. Other thoughts, Emily.
Yeah, I'm just. I do have a Game of Thrones feeling by the end. I've just sort of it's pat, it's neat, and yet unlike Game of Thrones, I wanted everyone. I wanted someone hung. I wanted Vallenger hung. I did not want him. I really don't want him back with Anabell. Basically, my girl's an idiot, but she deserves better. And it was so funny that sort of wrapping it up with this, well, you know how young men are, well, perhaps unsurprising, is disheartening. And that there is no sort of, the only person who gets punished is the only person that sort of stood her ground and been very honest about things, right up front. Oh, yeah, no, I was with you for money. Oh, sorry, that was a problem? Wasn't supposed to say the quiet part out loud. Okay. So I am a little sad at the lack of death, which is something I did not expect to be saying in this play.
Yes, I forget what the play we read immediately after Patient Griselle, but it had a comedy stoning that we really quite enjoyed immediately after doing Patient Griselle, because we were basically going, that's our sort of go-to thing where we want to just put in an ending that we like, whereas all the people we don't like get stoned in a comic way. It was very enjoyable in a really dark and twisted fashion. It's Anabell there. It's not so much that the Vallenger sort of says, "Hey, take me back." It's just that Anabell takes him back. I mean, it's that speech from Anabell. It's just like, we know that this is what Anabell does. She's just a sort of walking speak your weight machine who just regurgitates lines from the patriarchy all the way through. But it's sort of just disheartening that it would have been nice if she just went, no. I get the house. But I, to be honest, I never really expected that to happen. I did quite like the comedy business of her and Challener both sort of stepping up. But then I have no idea what Challener's doing here. Is he turning up to save him, or is he there to go, actually, no, I want you to die? And then at the end, even though there is no reason for Challener to say, hey, we'll be best bros again, because actually, Vallenger's still been a dick throughout the whole play. He has done nothing to redeem. So why does Challener do anything at all? Stephen.
This is not really following on, but
right.
I love that bit where she says she's impenetrably disguised as a man, and the king says, "Rash young man," and then the next person goes, "No, it's a woman. It's obviously my daughter." And that kind of convention of the impenetrable disguise, because you put a hat on or something stupid like that, and everybody's going along with it, and then somebody just goes, "No." So I don't know what that's doing. I mean, it's like a meta-dramatic joke. It's got to be.
Well, the same with Challener's big speech, which I was somewhere between Clarkson and Toast of London for. He's immediately followed by Herbert going, "Is this not sad?" And Florence goes, "No." Well, yeah, actually, no. Florence, in theory, says yes. Actually, they're looking at it now. Now I read it that Florence is weeping at it, but it's just how true is that repentance? It's like it's again. I just feel that we just need signs above the thing of the conventional ending required. We don't want to do it tough. Everybody gets married at the end, except nobody. They're already married, and there is no wedding and stuff, and yeah. The end, the closest we get to a resolution, they get vaguely back together. Challener vaguely the thing, and Florence goes to a convent. That's that. It's a really weird ending, actually, in so many ways, even not in that sort of modern way. Other thoughts, Rachael?
Just Godfrey's reaction to them both coming on. He wanted that man hanged so bad. I really wish everyone but Florence got hanged in this. The rest, yeah.
I mean, Florence could be the executioner and could operate the axe and the gallows. I think she'd be quite good at that.
So yeah, none of it makes any sense apart from playing with conventions. And I think if you're spoofing conventions, it actually, in a sense, it ends very well because it doesn't really make sense. They're just doing the tropes, and on that spoof level, again, we don't have that many examples of early modern plays that are doing something that looks like explicit pastiche, but we do have some, and they're from about now. So, as we drift into final thoughts, this is what I've been thinking about for the last couple of days. Is that this comes pretty much bang on top of Geronimo, the second part, or the first part of Geronimo, which is basically a spoof version of the Spanish tragedy, and is quite funny, and is very short. And maybe, I mean, we were leaning towards a boys' company for it. But actually could fit in with an adult company and this. And I'm starting to now looking at a few other really short plays from about now going, ooh, is this a thing? Because a lot of people have been talk about this script as being, cut down or damaged or all sorts of things. And I'm sort of looking and going, it all feels quite deliberate. It may be rushed, but it feels deliberate, and I'm wondering whether. And I'm now also thinking ahead about Geronimo, thinking, oh, we've got a double bill. We've got two plays that, unadjusted over an hour, which are doing spoofs, and that actually might make quite a satisfying unit of things, rather than using Geronimo with the Spanish tragedy, which is fun but also slightly kills the Spanish tragedy, because it is a very effective takedown of elements of the Spanish tragedy. That doing this as a separate thing. So I'm really interested in that element now. I don't know how much of that is actually true. I don't know whether this is from the same company or is thought of and to be programmed in that kind of way. But I'm starting to wonder about that. I don't know if those who know Geronimo or other things from this time want to leap in on that thought or have their own thoughts. You're allowed to have your own thoughts and disagree with me entirely, and things about why this play is and what it's doing. Is it a spoof, or was it intended as a spoof rather than, as far as I'm concerned, it's a spoof. We're not doing it any other way, because there's just no way we can end on this as a serious ending. But maybe you disagree. Thoughts from the room, final thoughts from the room. Who wants to leap in first before I start picking on you? Because there's only 5 of you to choose from. And it won't take long before I get to you. The inevitable finger of fate. Eric, any final thoughts as the person who wasn't here yesterday and therefore doesn't really know what the hell's going on?
I think you mentioned, like some people talk about it being like damaged or cut or something. I think we were, based on the reactions of the room, that we were kind of hoping that it was damaged in places and cut in places where, like that it had ended maybe like with Vallenger's death or something, just because we kind of want to get rid of him.
Stephen, any final thoughts?
In terms of something really badly cut down, I'm not sure. It's difficult to imagine how it could have been, how a better version could have actually worked. You'd have to do it now, wouldn't you? Like they do sometimes at the Globe and the Wanamaker when they don't understand the play they're doing, and they kind of go, oh, let's make out that we don't understand it and make that really funny. That could have worked at court. I'm thinking about what else is in the repertory when they're off to Hampton Court. What else are there, because all these building blocks seem so familiar. But I'm also, I think there's a big plague outbreak around this time. So that might have had something to do with the state of the text.
Are we blaming this play for having caused it?
Are we blaming the play what, sorry?
For having caused it.
Yeah, I think so. And of course, the notorious spate of people with no sense of humour suicides, which happened around this time too. Just to throw in there, I mean, this is a real nerd point, but I was reading something the other day about stenography. Hayward claimed that people had sort of ripped his plays off by going to the theatre and basically copying them. And somebody got a couple of grad students to go to the Blackfriars in Virginia and try and do it, and they did really, really well. And that sort of thing would explain the way the text can be sort of going along okay, and then it seems like there's just a kind of random line, and it's kind of scanning and rhyming, and then not at all. So I'm wondering there if, in a sense, that's what's led to it. Well, that's just a nerd point, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I didn't want to introduce that at the beginning of the session was just to see, does the text function, or seem to function in its own right? There are party quirks and oddnesses to it, but again, they seem remarkably effective. The
words are the least important thing about it. So you'd go and see it, and you get the shape, especially as some of the scenes are so familiar. And what they actually say, meh. Well,
Anyway, final thoughts to say. What do we do with this today? And that question of that fear that I always have with saying, send something up, because as Stephen was saying, sending up something because you don't understand it is not the same as saying, this is. It seems to be that this is the intent of the text, but I don't know. We can never be certain. It does seem to be the centre of gravity is heading that way. Liza, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this it's interesting the way as we approach the end, the play sort of goes to pieces, but then becomes more intense. Like Florence, who up front was basically a cardboard character, gets incredibly amazing as we go towards the end, and I don't think she really repents at all. I think I think it's one of these like a celebrity falls from grace and then they emerge later claiming to have found Jesus. I think that's what she's doing, and she's going to be abbess of that convent of nuns, and they're all going to be having way more fun than nuns usually have. So it's interesting, like, how the plot sort of goes into this chaos spiral, and the characters are like, in TV drama, there's a phrase, the idiot ball. So in a given episode, the actors will be like, okay, who's carrying the idiot ball this week? Who have the writers got carrying the idiot ball? And the character carrying the idiot ball behaves in a way wildly out of character for themselves, and everyone else has to deal with it, and that's the plot. But it seems like there's sort of a game of volleyball with the idiot ball where it lands on everyone for a certain amount of time. There's a whole lot of WTF, but it could be played in a way where the increasing amount of WTF is funny.
Yeah, I mean, it is a comedy. It's that seems to be its intention, and if you're not making fun of it for style, actually there aren't that many comic setups because it's actually playing melodrama most of the time. So unless you're making fun of it, it's not a comedy. So, though of course, definitions of genre do shift. Rachael, any final thoughts?
I think you could do that double billing with Geronimo. I thought that 100%. What Stephen said now has me like thinking. I mean, Emily said that a lot of this did read like writer's room notes, and if they were sending in students to use stenography to basically copy it down, they're going to try and get like the main plot points. And maybe also that's why we have such short speeches, is that they were getting, how William Alexander that we had a couple weeks ago would put the most important stuff right at the bottom of the speech. Maybe they're just taking from it that those end bits or those most important bits from whoever that they're plagiarizing this from, and then maybe trying to maintain some of the rhyme scheme, or how you said that it went through a couple passes, or it looked like it went through a couple passes, Emily. Maybe those passes were to recreate a rhyme scheme from lines that had not originally rhymed. I mean, this is all hypothetical, but I think there's something really interesting that could be explored there, as this was the bare bones that they would then take, and maybe later on we're going to plan to flesh it out and make it into a fuller text to then present on their own after they've pirated it. The piracy, like a movie or play piracy of like the 1600s, 1500s.
I mean, yeah. I'll hold on that thought for another time. Emily, final thoughts.
Yeah. I still think this was meant to be a comedy. In however it came to be, whether it was a group of writers or vaguely pirated or half written or whatever it may be, mostly because you have bluntness and repetition. So in that final scene, no, I will die for, no, I will do, having literally the same line one after each other, it cannot help but be comic, because it's not, it's not a reply, because we don't have the soliloquies getting us into the thoughts of the characters, because, as we've been saying in the chat, you wear the trope on your sleeve. Again, because there's repetition, which therefore makes me like, it turns on my director brain as well, because then there's the question of, oh, we're on the gallows, but we're going to be using an axe. What can we have that can indicate these different things? I mean, and there's so much action already included that this lends itself very well to farce. It lends itself very well to being staged broadly. Two people come on, one is slightly poisoned. You know what I mean? The setups are absurd. And yeah, I do think there would have been enough plays that people would have seen by the point that it was written, that fairly soon after you see people, disguising themselves, and you see this and you see that, and tropes are established, the first thing you do is you write long form sketch comedy, which is kind of what this is. And then to cover your rear, you have that ending. So that you can live to write tropes another day. But yeah, loads of fun.
I mean, yeah, the thing that I'm generally resistant to the idea of it's being copied, or that there's a transmission problem, is partly whenever I see a play text that's like this, that is short and bitty, is that it just feels like an actually used theatre script in a way that some others don't. And to test that proposition, because theatrically there's no problems with it. All the entrances and exits make sense. That it doesn't feel like there's missing data apart from motivation, but I don't think the play is particularly interested in motivation. And also it's this idea that plays should be these enormous, massive things that go on for hours and hours and hours, when in fact that they come in different shapes and sizes and in different styles. So that's one of the reasons. There are lots of other reasons why I'm resistant to the idea. Because I don't think it's necessary. It's primarily trying to solve a problem of it not being like literature enough, rather than being like a play. And it's a play, and it does all the play jobs that it needs to do. But other people are perfectly allowed to disagree on that point, because there is no meaningful proof either way. So we've got time for additional discussion. If anyone has any other additional thoughts or points they want to throw into the ring, in the chat we were talking about, or someone was suggesting the idea of almost a mini season of spoofs, of which we have got a few things in play. I mean, there's certainly some of the Boy Company's plays from quite early on are doing things that are like spoofs, and there's plenty of plays that are taking material from other plays and even if it's just a scene or two where they're clearly sending them up and going, look at this. We had a little bit of this afternoon with Humorous Day's Mirth, where we're going, hang on, this looks like it might be doing something with another play, but that's for another time and another season. Any other final thoughts before I close the room? No, we're done with the Fair Maid of Bristow, but I feel that maybe we may come back. So for all that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, and goodbye. To her I'll show my grief and my sick mind.